Hey guys, this is Carolina Varsity. We're in our 2015 season, and this is our last best of last of this season. I'm Dale Ross.
And I'm Matt Maher, the Pep Man, and we're going to take a look at this. And for the teams that didn't make the playoffs, we're going to kind of take a brief look at the review of their season and their plans for going into the next season. So number 22, guaranteed their season was over last week. Obviously, no change. It's the second year for their coaching staff over there. Uh, some people predicted them to be better than what they were this year, and we're hoping to see
hmm
some progress. They did have a JV team, which helps out in progressing for the future. But they've got some guys that are seniors that some of their best players are graduating now. Um, in this point in the process, I think you got to stick with the coaches that have been there right now because instability has been the problem at Guaranteed for so long. And you guys went out and you thought about the hire. You brought this guy in. It's brought some more awareness to the program, and some things have improved. But it takes time to really get things better on the field. I know you've talked about some of the issues at
Yeah,
Garinger before.
exactly. The biggest issue I think that drove Garinger down, and we saw was a deterrent with West Charlotte and others, is this constant change of coaches.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, if you've got multiple coaching staffs across a player's high school career.
Yep.
So in some cases, these kids see three coaches in 4 years. It's hard to have the kind of stability that you'd look for in a situation. I
Mm-hmm.
think the problems are beyond just what the coaches are. So just to chunk the coaches without really knowing what they're doing internally
Right.
and go out and find other coaches unless you hire a coach that's a proven builder that you can look at and see has done this over and over and over.
Mm-hmm.
You don't do that.
Right. So, Gander, it's basketball season. Hopefully, some of you guys that played football will get into basketball or indoor track,
hmm
wrestling, or get in the weight room
Lift
and start
weights.
working and getting ready for the next season. 21 Porter Ridge, they lost 2019 to Rocky River, no change in their ranking. There's
hmm
been a lot of talk on the site about Porter Ridge. Some things said about the coaches, the way they're preparing for the games, and so forth and so on. Um, it's been year two for this guy.
No,
Also,
this is
year one,
first
first year.
year. He's a
Okay, first year.
first year head coach.
Okay,
That's right. It is his first year. Yeah, this was his first job as a head coach.
okay,
He actually played for Barry Schufer.
yeah.
So
Came from West Carolina.
exactly. So know a little bit. I've heard a little bit about him, but
Mm-hmm.
I think Porter Ridge probably made a decision there of building with a coach and building a coach, and
Yeah.
you got to look at that way. Now, parents may not like that, but the
Mm-hmm.
administration may have said we got to rebuild, and maybe we can build a coach at the same time, and he'll stick with us. So
Right.
we have short-term
Right.
failure for long-term success.
Mm-hmm. Because they went with the Harden route. He came in,
Yeah,
then he left. So you got to be patient. You got to be patient. They were spoiled with the success they had,
right.
and now they're seeing the other side of the spectrum. But when you choose a young guy, you got to let him build,
That's
and
right.
you got to ride it out because you believed enough in him to hire him. So now you got to stick behind him and let the process go through.
Yeah,
Now, unless there's something egregious going on,
right.
you know, you got to stick it out.
That's what we mentioned earlier. Unless there's
Mm-hmm.
exactly so, if you don't have any of these major sore thumb issues that are not wins and losses, then you got to stick it out. To be successful, it takes more than one coach.
Yeah.
And a young coach doesn't have this whole great network of coaches he can pull from because he's still developing and
Right.
making relationships. And,
Mm-hmm.
maybe one of his friends, like a Barry Shuford, may be able to recommend some people that can work with him. But you got to give that process some time too.
Exactly.
It's tough when you got kids that are losing as a result. But to be quite honest with you, I don't know that anybody's going to step right in right now and turn you around into definitely not into a state champion. It would take anybody a couple of years to get right back
And
to
they
where
have
they're at.
they have had some talented guys on the JV
Yep.
that are coming up, and they're learning the new system young. So once they get up, maybe you get back into a County conference. Maybe you get back down to 3A. Maybe that'll help out. We saw it with J.M. Robinson.
That's right.
You know, they went back to 3A after 2 years in the 4A league, and look at them now, 7-4 in the playoffs.
So realignment may push them to 3A. That's something we'll look at after the season's over. We'll look at what alignments might look like in the future.
Number 20, Hopewell lost 42-6 to A.L. Brown. No change in their ranking, but looking at their program, we knew coming into the season it was a rebuilding situation for Coach Gray. You know, you've heard nothing but positive feedback from the way he's been coaching those kids, the way they were in games early in the season. I think some of the depth got to them as the season went on. You know, being competitive against Vance, I thought was a good sign. It showed the players didn't quit on them. They were listening to them. And, you know, they believe. They believe in the message. And, you know, we were there for their first game. And, you know, I was so impressed with the way they were coaching constantly. You know, and the way Coach Gray kept his players fired up and into the game. You know, I think they made a really good hire.
This is a great hire. So anybody that's worried about, record, forget it. This man's a good man. And he's a man that you want your sons playing for. Give him time.
In a tough conference.
Exactly. Toughest conference in the state. So you know, they were down last year.
No, like you said, because they're in that toughest conference, don't let that record fool you. These things turn around quick in high school football.
They sure can.
So, number 19, Harding lost 21-6 to West Meck. No change in their ranking. Obviously, Coach Grinder's first season. Main thing I want to say is, you know, they had the same record that, you know, we had in 2014, but you can see the way they're competitive in games now. That's the first step in rebuilding. Right. You got to get back to being competitive. They were competitive in a lot of games. And number 2, they have the second year JV football program there, which is a big positive. They've got young talent there. We just saw the article on the young running back, Vars Crouch, in the Observer. And, you know, seeing him live and then seeing him on film, he is a heck of a player. And I think, you know, for 3 years and the way he wants to stick it out at Harding, I think is awesome. That gives Coach Grinder something to build on. He's got a base now. There's other young talented kids in that program. Malik Dunlap is a big, tall receiver who I think has a lot of potential. Jarkevion Turner, the quarterback, young sophomore quarterback, is going to be there 2 more years. So they've got some stuff going there. Coach Grinder is big on the weight room. He'll have those guys working out. I think it's positive there, and you know, stability there. He wants to be there. He wants to build it. All those things are good. The new money that came into the program to get them new uniforms, new equipment. Harding is going in the right direction. Yeah. And this is what the program needs to succeed in the future. They just got to keep it going, and I hope they do.
Yeah, just like the others. Don't look at 1 year and think this, you know, gosh, we got to make another change. Got to give people time to make their changes, to build their staffs, to be able to build the
and that's
programs.
Another good point. They got, you know, guys in the school now. You know, and that's in that type of school. You got to have guys in the school to support, you know, everything, because the head coach can't do all that alone. So if they can keep that going, you know, they're going to be better next year.
Yeah, my word, if an administrator is looking at this, is if someone's talking to you about we need to make change, they might be right. You do need to make change, but it's not in removing the head coach. It's giving him more support.
Right.
That's what really has to happen. If you really want to improve the program, give the coach some support. Give him bodies that are in the school that can be out on the field with the kids. That's the best thing you can do.
And you can almost say the same thing for this next team, number 18, West Charlotte.
Yeah.
Their season's over already. No change in the ranking. But, you know, Coach Hart, you know, I've met him. I talked to him for a long time. I love his message and the way he's dedicated to the game and dedicated to being at West Charlotte. You know, one of the big things that stuck with me was he told me he's a football guy. He's a lifer. And I guess I'll say it. When you have a head coach that's a lifer, you want to get guys around you that are the same way. And like you just talked about building a staff, that takes time.
Mm-hmm.
It's a process. Coach Hart came here from a different area, and he wants guys around him that are dedicated to building West Charlotte up to be where it was, back in the glory days.
Right.
And I think he'll get there. I think he's a good defensive mind. They were competitive in some games early
Right.
on, but like Hopewell, the depth got to them.
Yeah.
They got talent, but they're going to graduate some of those guys in Patton and Cole on the offensive side of the ball, Dunlap going North Carolina on the defensive side of the ball. So they're going to have to replace those guys, get in the weight room, recruit the school, get some more depth out there. They had a JV also. So, these West Side schools are going to start coming back, man, and they just got to keep that talent and stay eligible.
Exactly.
Got to stay eligible.
That's one of the other things that coaches need help in, is helping kids stay eligible. And that doesn't mean fixing grades. That means helping those kids through tutoring, etc., to be able to stay eligible and get their GPAs up. It's a real important function to be able to support those kids. They're athletes, but you need to support them. So any teachers, etc., that may be watching, and I'm going to say here, this apply to every one of the other schools. One of the things I'm going to want to do later is do a video on what does it take to build a program.
Right.
And
some off-season stuff.
Exactly. And get some head coaches involved to talk about that. But it requires a lot of help from the administration that most of these coaches don't get.
And another thing for West Charlotte, they're going to have the new stadium stuff coming. It's got started by Mo Collins. And, Coach Hart told me he wants to continue what Mo started, especially. That's a big thing for him. So,
Right.
West Charlotte, I think they're another team going in the right direction. They just got to get some more guys in that program. 17, Rocky River. They did win 2019 over Porter Ridge, but, I dropped them a spot just because,
Right.
you didn't expect them to struggle that much with Porter Ridge. But, looking at Rocky River, I know you brought up some facts with them about some changes they had to make to their roster during the season. They were a team that, we thought that they had taken the next step into being one of those year in, year out contenders in the Southwestern 4A. But, Coach Simpson left, went up to northern part of the state. I forget where exactly, Raleigh area, to coach. And, when you have staff changes like that, it takes some time to adjust. Coach Fowler, he's won big. He's been in the playoffs. I think he's the right guy. Some things happened last year where, some things fell through with coaching changes and such. But, he opened that school. He's been there the whole time.
Yeah, and here, everyone should be appreciative of what he did, and what they did. You got to put it on the entire staff, and that they made some tough decisions to remove kids from the team, starters, and a large quantity of large number of players because of discipline issues. And as it was put to me, not just on the field, within the team, but in the school and outside the school, all these things are important to them. And they address that by doing something that a lot of coaches would not do. And a lot of coaches would probably keep the players around, because I think the number was right near 10 starters, something like that they removed from the team.
And your talent disparity in high school is big.
Exactly.
So you losing 10 starters, that's going to hurt you on the
Exactly.
field. But one thing to always remember, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything.
That's right.
And, as young men and us older guys, as coaches that have been in the game, trying to counsel and, teach these young men life, that is what counts for more. Not what you do on the field. It's about what you do off the field, because the field is only going to be there for a certain time.
Well, my comment when they told me this was that, and I told Fowler that, you got to make that decision. And you may look at hurting the team in wins, but you're hurting the team by keeping bad things around, because the other players, your good players, the ones that are working mentally for you and are on your are going your way, they can stray when they see that, well, gosh, coach kept that player around because he's contributing. He's not going to get rid of him because he's doing this and that. So what's the coach going to do to me?
Exactly.
So you got to cut cancer out is what you have to do. And coaches that do that, I just want to say, administration, you should be fully behind them.
Exactly. And our last non-playoff team, 16 Barry, they tough loss, 35-12 to Olympic. They dropped 3 spots. We called it the loser leave town match, and that's what it ended up being because they didn't get in the playoffs. You know, they had those 5 wins. With Barry here, Coach Howard, I think, has done a good job. I like him a lot. He's been the longest tenured coach in the South MEC 8. You see they're going to lose Digsby. He's a senior. Curitin, I believe, is a senior. But they do have Roberts. I believe Roberts is a junior coming back. So, you know, those guys will have to depend on Roberts. They always get skill guys in. They always have speed. They always have that talent. The big thing with them is, you know, like we said, bigger in the weight room. They, you know, they have trouble stopping the run. They have some trouble up front. But they're very talented. They have a great offensive scheme. You know, there was some talk last year about maybe changes happening. I'm glad they didn't because that stability helps out in these programs. And for Barry to be competitive as they are, they just got to keep pushing. And I think they can get the playoffs next year.
Yeah, I wouldn't look to see a coaching change here, although I would say to the coaches, you need to really look defensively at your team. If there's been one thing about Barry, and I'm just going to have to be honest here, there's been one thing about Barry over the course of Barry is you can run against you. You can always count on running against your teams. You know, the kids can address that by getting bigger in the weight room, getting stronger. That's where if anything needs to happen, they as a staff need to look at fixing that.
I want to say something about support there because they've had some administration changes.
Right.
And I think that needs to be addressed there because they're not a school with a ton of tradition, obviously being new.
Right.
But Coach Howard has brought stability to them. Before Coach Howard was there, they were up and down, and you know there were a lot of stuff, different things going on, and they need to show that program some support. You know, I think if they do that, they're going to be a little bit better off than where they are right now. Last 15 teams, these guys are in the playoffs, so we're going to kind of speed through this. 15.
So let's cut it right there,
Right.
and we'll have 2 videos up. We'll have a video for this because I'm sure most of you people didn't watch this. And you certainly are going to watch this long just to see who was number 1. But I do want to add on to what you said. You know, what you said about the administration, and we said this about some of the other programs, and it has to be said here, and it applies to all programs from number 1 to number 22. Administration, you got to support your coaches better than you do. Some schools have got great support. Some schools get no support. And those of you that don't get support, you know who the hell you are, and you need to start doing it. These guys need the support. These kids need the support. It's an important function, athletics is. Whether you believe it or not, it does help these kids. And it helps your school because the kids that don't play, you can get them involved and they get something to think about for the rest of their life. They get an experience and they get a love for their school. You need that. There's nothing wrong with developing that. That's just another aspect of that kid's life that you guys need to help make better. So,
well said.
Another part of that video that we'll do about building the program. All right. That's it for this part with part 2.